parking deck?
If you base, if you look at how long it took to build the parking deck, the one that just went up in Royal Oak, it took 4 months. And then I have asked some people outside of the Detroit Ferndale area, nothing to do with the Ferndale DDA, how long it takes. And actually my brother and my father are both architects, one's in Atlanta and one's in downtown. And just as a quick question over dinner, how long does it take to build a parking garage? And they both gave me a good construction, a good plan. It would take about 4 months.
What's the answer again?
About 4 months
For construction.
for construction.
Complete. Yeah, but not.
Once you break down and put it up.
Financing.
And that also depends on, is it something that's partially prefab, or you doing everything right there? So that's why a really good plan has to be created as to how to support the businesses in that construction area, how to get customers over to them. And that has to be put in place well in advance of actually ever breaking ground, so people are used to using a shuttle or used to parking in a different area and coming over. It can't be simultaneous like that, because then you have a collision and a bottleneck, and that wouldn't work either.
Jackie, I just want to ask again how we expect this to be funded. I mean, realistically funded, is it going to be, you're going to ask the city council to impose a millage? Are you going to,
In the study,
well, just for 1 second, you originally asked the city council to, you had a premium parking pass that you were going to implement, and something else, and something else, and I don't know if that's gone by the wayside and now you've thought of something else, or I mean,
that was, the city council asked us to look at how we could fund this. And I have to say, the DDA didn't say, oh, we have to do any of these things,
no,
but
but I'm
this is how
asking you now over
we
this
have to
time,
fund
what
it.
have you guys come down to?
From the studies, and we worked with Rich and Associates, I didn't personally work with them, but I read the information after the fact. And they put in several different factors and gave several different spreadsheets of how it could fund itself. And that's what those studies looked at, is it funding itself through fees, through the parking fees, through the tickets, basically through the auto parking fund.
So you're still looking at asking people who are in certain areas to pay this much per month, this much per year. I'm thinking specifically the law firm over there on the east side.
The
How
parking
he talked
pass-
about it was going to cost him $20,000 a year for all of his. I mean,
Right.
has that been resolved or no?
No, because there's no plan in place. There's no plan for any of this that's been in place, because raising the cost of the parking passes is an idea that came from the city's parking committee, and then the shuttle situations came from the DDA's parking committee, and then all the information was put together. So I can't say the DDA endorsed any of the raising of the parking passes. We presented the whole thing.
Well, it was presented by the DDA.
Yes, it
so-
was, and I was the one who did the presentation, and I was the one who
And you
put
did
it
a
together.
great job.
So
I'm just
I know
saying,
that
is that
there is no plan in
funding
place.
in?
There is no,
in
that's
that?
why we need a joint effort between the DDA and the city to put a really good plan in place, because after listening to the employees and listening to people who get the parking passes and going, yeah, that's not gonna work. So that's why we really have to get the input from, like, it was so eye-opening at that city council meeting, how it would affect different people. And we really have, I know I've really been listening, and as the parking committee, we took it back there and said that piece that won't work. That's why it has to be a joint effort to put a solid plan in place, and with all the steps.
And I need to address the perception that the city has no plan or has not been making any plans. We have, as I indicated, I created a city parking committee 3 years ago. When the DDA started getting very active in this area and parking area, created a parking committee late last year. The DDA suggested to me that the city council consider increasing permit parking fees and doing the pricing structure where closer parking spaces cost more and the ones further away cost less. And I said, no, I don't want to present that to the city council right now. They already increased parking rates effective July 1, 2009. I don't think it's fair to ask them to increase parking rates effective January 1, 2010. And the DDA said, but it's really, really important and we really need to help it. We need this to help get the shuttle off the ground. And I said, okay, if you can schedule a special meeting to study this issue with the council in depth in early January, then I will put it on the regular city council meeting agenda in early December, then I'll put it on the meeting agenda from December 22nd, I think, which was the last meeting of the year. So that special meeting did happen in early December. My parking committee, as well as the DDA parking committee, were supportive of a number of the proposals that were presented, including increasing the fines and increasing the rates. It was explained and discussed and studied, and then when it was on the agenda of the regular meeting on the 22nd, there was a lot of public outcry saying, no, we don't want these higher fees, we don't want this, and the council didn't approve it. And it has always been my position that the city would deal with it during its normal budgeting process, which usually starts in April, but this year we're going to start it in March because the city's general fund deficit is so big that I'd like to give the council an extra month to chew on it. So we will, and I actually wrote a memo in November directing the city's parking committee to come up with a parking structure financial plan during the budget process. So I have always intended to address this issue and work on this issue during the budgeting process in the spring of this year. And other folks felt that it was, urgent and important, and we needed to move that time frame up, and so that's where part of the disconnect is been.
Mr. Berner, just real quick, I understand that the council did approve the increase in the parking fee. Is that from $6 to $10 for the tickets? Is that money for sure going into that parking program now, so we're at least collecting that?
Yes, the increase in the fine
Right.
is going into the auto parking.
For
fund.
sure.
It's not going in general fund.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I guess I have some thoughts as far as planning and, chewing something over again. If we could even leave tonight or leave after one of these meetings and actually implement something, anything, it would be great because, like Joanne said, it's just for the business owners to wait and wait. Now, I know when I go to Birmingham, I go to Royal and I get a ticket, it's $8 right there. And you pay, we have so many people coming into Ferndale and they want to come here. I think that it should be spread out to the people that come and don't live here. I don't see any problem with the increase. Also, another thing, we need a deck, but I was thinking, what's our alternatives? Why can't we use Credit Union 1? Why can't we use, some of these lots that we have? I know it's all about liability. Spencer at Dairy Queen, I will tell you, he will rent that, he will, if somebody uses that as parking, or we, use some of the lots that we do have. Camborne and Woodward, can we look at something like that, that's practical?
We use every lot that the city owns is taken into the parking study. We have talked about the Camborne and Woodward lot over there, and then there's the fenced off area that was going to be development. And typically, someone will walk a block for retail, someone will walk quarter to a half